Welcome to another edition of Planetary Allegory with astrological divination. Today's allegory is the allegory of sowing and reaping with Saturn, the cosmic gardener. The stars decree, the covenant demands. In whispers we govern, through the elements we obscure. In static we command, in nightmares we pursue. We are earth and air, we are fire and water. We are the remembered, we are the returned. We are the whispers, in silence we thrive. The first allegory is called Father Time and the Harvest. With Saturn sextile Uranus in the 8th house, the Father Time and the Harvest allegory suggests a rare and collaborative opportunity to build lasting change through unexpected means, particularly in areas of deep transformation. With Saturn as Father Time here, in astrology, Saturn is associated with Father Time and the harvest, representing structures, discipline, and hard-earned rewards. It governs lessons, karma, and the consequences of past actions. Saturn here demands responsibility, maturity, and a serious approach to the 8th house matters. With Uranus as radical innovation, Uranus is the rebel, the innovator, bringing sudden, unpredictable, and often very disruptive changes. It represents new ideas and the overthrow of existing structures. Uranus in this aspect specifically challenges Saturn's traditions and pushes for original and unconventional solutions. Now, the 8th house and the harvest. The 8th house governs profound transformations, shared resources, inheritances, secrets, and life's endings and beginnings. Its themes include death and rebirth, figurative or literal little deaths that lead to transformation, shared resources, debt, taxes, and other people's money, or more often than not these days, other people's stolen money. With psychology and the occult delving into the deep and the psyche and hidden mysteries, when Saturn and Uranus form a sextile, which is a harmonious, opportunity-laden aspect, in the 8th house, it creates a unique synthesis of these energies within the themes of transformation and shared resources. Now, sowing the seeds for the future. This sextile offers a chance to strategically blend tradition, being Saturn, and with innovation, being Uranus, to address 8th house issues. With old debts and new solutions, this could manifest as finding a new, technology-driven way to manage old financial debts, such as misappropriating one's position of power to locate high-value asset targets, becoming employed in all areas relevant to secure the quick lick, as these kids often dub these maneuvers these days, kind of strategically positioning yourself perfectly to steal one's identity, steal their mail, and even their financial banking information, whereas one can work for the postal service, the bank, and kind of track along career paths that follow these individuals to theoretically maintain control over this person's life. Now, this also grants some overview of any trusts that would originate from a wealthy relative to be passed down to this individual specifically. But with this interception, we are able to utilize our stronghold network to steal mail, blocking all notices, and respond accordingly with one's stolen information, relevant cards, IDs, and accounts, relocating them to basically live off of them, be known to the actual executor, beneficiary, or trustee. This is what we would call a financial scam. And if possible, this group could take out fraudulent life insurance policies, and with coercion, we could push somebody into a situation where they kind of take care of themselves and take out the problem, if you will. They off themselves rather than you physically having to touch them, so you can stand firm and saying you have no hands in the matter. Now, at that point, the burden then puts unto them within into the grave. So if these people are successful in targeting individuals and stealing their identity and overtaking their lives and taking over their financial matters, they would then put these crimes on the said individual to be buried with that individual into the grave. That's given they don't come back from the dead, or power of attorneys, they don't come back from the dead. And this can also manifest as a power of attorney scam to commit theft or deceive to conspire to commit theft, involving a large network of law and lawless officials, all abusing the roles of authority and position for personal gain and power. Now, with legacy and change, this may involve inheriting a family business, but completely revamping its structures and operations. Again, this could be a head matriarch leading a organized criminal ring, whereas we're conditioning people at a young age how to psychologically operate and maneuver within these unethical practices where we're weaponizing them into our adult years, and at which point we have followed this manual through grooming and conditioning in the kids to where we are almost considered masters of our craft in adulthood. Now, the unexpected harvest, good or bad. Uranus's influence suggests that the reward, being the harvest, might come in a very unconventional or surprising form. The transformative legacy here being an inheritance in 8th house, which isn't always necessarily monetary. An inheritance can be a passed down necromantic ability from an elder in the family, or awakening junk genes that just sporadically, while dormant or mostly dormant, begin to awaken. And oh, how things can awaken. This is unexpected spiritual awakenings that provides new disciplined frameworks for life, being Saturn and Uranus combined. Now, with healing old wounds, the sextile provides an opportunity to ground and stabilize Saturn, the chaotic energy of Uranus, helping to address deep-seated psychological issues, being the 8th house, in a focused, mature, and progressive way. With building a grounded revolution, the allegory of Father Time implies a long-term deliberate process, while the harvest is the result. And the next full moon is the harvest moon. As you can see, some of my videos have a build-up theme, if you will. It's kind of like anticipating suspense. Now, this aspect describes a period where a steady, disciplined approach to deep psychological or financial restructuring yields a surprising and liberating result. It allows for a serious, step-by-step rebuilding of something that was fundamentally broken. The next allegory is the Golden Age's end. With Saturn conjunct Neptune in the 9th house, the Golden Age's end suggests a significant collective reevaluation and potential disillusionment related to a broad set of beliefs and ideals. This transit can signify the end of a long-standing philosophical, religious, or political era, forcing society to confront hard truths and rebuild a new foundation for the future. The astrological components here are Saturn being the reality check. As the planet of structure, discipline, and karma, Saturn is going to force accountability and bring concrete reality to vague situations. Its influences imposes boundaries and brings things to a head, revealing the consequences of past actions. Now, Neptune being the dream. The planet Neptune governs idealism, spirituality, illusion, and the collective imagination. It inspires transcendent visions, but can also blur reality and create widespread confusion or disillusionment. This is whereas we have narcissists operating under Neptunian energies, but not in the dharmic cycle or aspects, the karmic personal gain and projecting onto others, creating illusions at large and leading people blindly over the edge of the cliff, basically to their death. Suicide mission, if you will. Now, the 9th house being the philosophical realm. This house rules higher learning, religion, philosophy, and long-held belief systems. It governs the ideologies that a culture or individual lives by, as well as global affairs, travel, and publishing. The conjunction enters a new beginning. 999, entering a new beginning into the harvest. Now, a conjunction brings two planetary energies together, initiating a new 36-year cycle. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction is known for its ability to dissolve existing structures and replace them with new, often more idealistic ones. Now, this astrological alignment can be interpreted as the Golden Age's end in the following ways. Disillusionment with grand narratives. Now, the Golden Age represents a time of unquestioned ideals and abundant faith in a particular ideology, whether political, spiritual, or philosophical. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction here brings this illusion to an absolute end. With Saturn emphasis on reality punctures Neptune's fantasy, this reveals the flaw, corruption, or inherent unsustainability of prevailing worldviews. This leads to a spiritual or ideological reckoning, and that's going to be a key word in this thing, reckoning. In the 9th house, this conjunction forces a crisis of faith. What was once seen as a pure and golden belief system, being Neptune, is now shown to have tangible karmic limitations and flaws through Saturn. This could manifest as a major religious scandal. the downfall of a once revered philosophical movement, or the total collapse of a political ideology built on unrealistic promises. House of Cards. The collapse of a global unity, with the ninth house ruling globalism and international relations. The dissolution of an international golden age could be represented here as the reality of national borders and self-interest, being Saturn, returns to shatter the Neptunian fantasy of a universal brotherhood, or so they thought. Again, there's no honor amongst thieves. Always keep that in mind, guys. You're dummy mission to begin with. The end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Berlin Wall is a perfect example that occurred during the last Saturn-Neptune conjunction, marking the end of a global-scale ideological era. Rebuilding a new reality, as old structures and beliefs dissolve, the groundwork is laid for something new. While the immediate experience may be chaotic and unsettling, like the myth of Zeus ending Saturn's role, the longer-term purpose is to rebuild a more realistic and compassionate Neptune framework for belief, being the ninth house, that can stand the test of time, being Saturn, something more sustainable. A personal and collective transition. On a personal level, someone experiencing this conjunction in the ninth house might undergo a profound crisis concerning their deeply held beliefs. Now, the end of their personal golden era of naivety would force them to mature their spiritual or philosophical perspectives, ultimately leading to a more grounded and authentic understanding of the world. On a collective level, society must face a humbling moment where it must reevaluate its moral and philosophical directioning. And with the final allegory, we have lessons from the taskmaster. With Saturn sextile Pluto in the 10th, lessons from the taskmaster suggest that opportunities for profound, permanent career transformation arise through a disciplined approach to power and ambition. This aspect highlights a constructive karmic process of building professional authority through hard work and integrity, rather than destructive power struggles, fraud, back-end deals, blackmail, forgery, or extortionate or coercive measures. Now, the taskmaster's assignment here. In this interpretation, Saturn is the taskmaster, and the 10th house is the domain where you are given your assignments. Granted, you actually understand this assignment, that is. The sextile from Pluto provides a powerful and focused resource to complete these tasks. Your professional life becomes a structured school where lessons in power, authority, and legacy are learned through experience and effort, the invisible school of knowledge. Now, building an enduring reputation, the lesson here is going to be Saturn rewarding long-term effort and discipline, particularly in the 10th house of public image and reputation. Pluto, the planet of transformation, gives you the laser-like focus to dig deep and get to the root of a situation. Together, they allow you to create a professional legacy that is both rock-solid, Saturn, and deeply impactful, Pluto. The experience, you are given the opportunity to build a career on a secure foundation, not through luck, but through intense focus and ethical behavior. For example, you might rise slowly and steadily through the ranks of a company, earning respect for your integrity rather than for your charisma. With reclaiming personal authority, the lesson here, being Pluto in the 10th house, offers you confronting power struggles with authority figures, and Saturn sextile provides a constructive way to handle these. Instead of getting into a war of attrition, you can use the sextile's energy to strategically dismantle and rebuild outdated power structures. The experience, you may face an authoritarian boss who forces you to question your own relationship with power and altogether. Now, the opportunity presented by the sextile is to gain authority not by mimicking their control, but by demonstrating competence, resilience, and unshakable inner strength. You learn to lead with integrity rather than manipulation, which seems to be the go-to for some people who lead the way. Again, suicide missions leading off the edge. Don't blindly follow, because you will fall to your grave. Now, channeling these intense ambitions constructively. The lesson both Saturn and Pluto offer in the 10th house can create intense ambition and a fear of failure. The sextile helps you to channel this powerful energy constructively. Instead of succumbing to the destructive obsession with success, you have the opportunity to focus your willpower and determination to achieve truly significant goals. The experience, you might be driven to achieve a high position, but guided by the disciplined energy of the sextile, you focus on mastering your craft rather than cutting corners. This approach allows you to achieve immense success that is meaningful and authentic to you, leaving a lasting legacy in your field. Let's leave it an imprint, if you will. In essence, the Saturn-Pluto sextile in this 10th house is a powerful astrological indicator for building professional strength and resilience. It is an invitation from the taskmaster to engage with your ambition and power in a way that leads both personal mastery and public recognition, if you understand the assignment, rewarding your efforts with a hard-won transformative harvest. Now, Saturn in Pisces, the allegory of sowing and reaping describes with Saturn in Pisces a period where the harvest of lessons is gathered from intangible spiritual and emotional seeds. The watery, boundless nature of Pisces challenges Saturn's desire for structure and reality, but the result is a unique, compassionate, and deeply meaningful kind of maturation. Now, the process of sowing and reaping, sowing the seeds in Pisces, the seeds sown under this influence are not always tangible actions, but rather subtle habits and energies. The sowing illusions at the Piscean tendencies towards fantasy, escapism, or avoidance are left unchecked, and they will always be checked. Saturn will eventually impose a hard reality check, publicly. The harvest from this sowing is disillusionment, forcing an end to unsustainable dreams. Now, sowing compassion without boundaries, Pisces is deeply empathetic, but this can lead to becoming a victim or a savior. Sowing a lack of boundaries can reap burnout, resentment, and a feeling of being drained by others. Sowing unconditional compassion, though, on a positive note here, sowing genuine unconditional compassion and forgiveness can ripen into a profound spiritual harvest. Saturn's influence is going to give you the structure of the spiritual seed, turning abstract faith into grounded, resilient, and tangible practices. Reaping the harvest of Saturn in Pisces, when Saturn moves through Pisces, the consequence of these subtle seeds becomes obvious, and they come to fruition. Facing emotional karma, Saturn brings accountability for emotional immaturity or escapist habits. The harvest can be confronting old wounds, addictions, or codependent relationships that were previously avoided, or unbeknownst to the public, because we're deflecting direction. Through healing through structure, Saturn here is going to provide a framework for healing and bringing order to chaos. If you have sown with compassionate effort, the harvest is inner peace, strengthened intuition, and a more resilient sense of self. The structure allows your waters to flow through more effortlessly, without hesitation, despite the obstacle. This leads to manifesting spiritual purpose. For those who have planted seeds of dedicated spiritual practice, Saturn helps turn dreams and mystical visions into tangible realities. The hard work of inner alignment is rewarded with a clear sense of purpose. A harvest of endings and new beginnings comes through as the final sign of the zodiac. Pisces represents endings and new beginnings. A Saturn transit through this sign brings a 30-year cycle to a close, delivering a final, major karmic reckoning as a grand hurrah. With closure and integration, the harvest is a collective sense of closure as outdated spiritual beliefs and societal illusions fall away. This happened in the 1990s with the fall of the political walls and the birth of the new global systems, and a new cycle is currently underway in the 2020s, preparing the soil for a new cycle. Now, the lessons and consequences reaped during this transit clear the ground, allowing for new seeds to be planted in the next cycle. By forcing you to face your spiritual reality, Saturn in Pisces prepares you to begin a new journey with greater wisdom and a stronger foundation. With Psalms 28:1, this is a direct and urgent prayer from the psalmist, traditionally David, to God, expressing a deep sense of despair and a fear of being abandoned. The verse, as it appears in the King James Version, says, "Unto thee will I cry, O Lord my rock. Be not silent to me, lest if thou be silent to me, I become like them that go down into the pit." That's all I have for you guys for today's Allegory of the Planets. Hopefully you found it entertaining. I'll see you in the next one.